Okay, so the topic of today is referral, which is actually timely, obviously, since you're kind of getting a little bit more serious about referrals now. Getting referrals, there's some art, there's some science to it. So I'm gonna recommend you have your training manual kind of available. And then let's also have some notes. All right. All right, let's go through some of the standards. So as far as like, what is a standard? So a lot of people confuse standards with goals, standards with like mission objectives. A standard is something way more fundamental than that. No, a standard of building a house would be to have a foundation, to use concrete. A standard of being a person is when you leave the house, you actually have to wear pants. Like, could you imagine if you left the house and you got here to work, and by the time you got here, you looked down and you were not wearing pants? Wouldn't you feel crazy? Like you'd all of a sudden snap in and be like, oh my God, did I just lose consciousness? Like you'd actually almost probably believe you need to go to the hospital, right? There's something very wrong. That is what a standard is. A standard is something where if you don't do it, you would feel crazy. Like if I didn't walk my dog or feed my dog this morning and I got here, I'd be like, oh my God, that's crazy. I can't believe I forgot to do something so important. That's referrals. When we make referrals as important as putting on pants in the morning, I think at that point we can start to understand, being successful here. And I know Bailey's like, if you don't get referrals, you're gonna bleed out. Right? That was a little bit of a graphic, but highly,
I don't know.
well put together thought.
I don't know if you did the drawing for him years ago, but he gave me I was telling you the other day, like he made a house, like the foundation was referrals. The main part of the house, like the structure is like presentations, and then the roof, like the final touches are like the sales and the commissions.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I mean, I think that fits well. So let's go through a couple of standards. Number one is we always ask for referrals. Number two is having the referral approach memorized. And the objection handlers. Always qualifying your referrals and always asking for more. So those are some of the things we're going to review today. All right. Number one is let's talk about the word trust. People give you more referrals when they like you. Okay, so like is sort of like not liking somebody is not the first step of referrals. The first step of referrals is getting to know them at a high level, right? So that's what that beginning, that first, let me tell you a little bit more about myself, kind of, let me tell you about why I'm working here, that whole paragraph. Do you have that in your script, or how do you use that? Did you print it out, or do you have it sort of?
I have it on a Google Doc as like my mantra.
Okay.
That I tell people that I say before.
Okay, good. So that part really helps. And then they also like you more if you ask them a lot of questions. So got to ask questions, and then you got to ask digging deeper questions. That's another thing I would write down. Ask digging deeper questions. So a digging deeper question is, so tell me more about that. When somebody answers a question, tell me more about that. So what, Mrs. Jones, what do you do? Oh, I work at a church. Tell me more about that. And really be interested. Think in that moment, like, what's something new I can learn? 7 to 10 minutes of trust. Okay, share your goals. I think goal sharing is really important. So I would be thinking multiple layers into the future, right? So let's think like, okay, the fast art contest goes well. You hit $10,000. Do you think it's possible at that point that I might challenge you to help other people with their fast art in the future? If it goes really well for you. If you're doing really good with referrals, maybe it's possible I might ask you to coach somebody, drill them on referrals like I did with you. Well, if you're doing that and you're good at that, well, that's what the job of the assistant manager is. The assistant managers in this office, they I leverage my time by having them do other things. So that way it allows me to be able to work on higher level activities. Okay, well, if you become an assistant manager and things go well with that, then you can move up to branch manager. Branch manager is the first level of independent leadership in this office, where you get a chance to run your own office for 90 days. Get your own interviews, training like I trained you, these types of meetings, and you have your own team that you develop. And I think that you need to be thinking about multiple layers into the future, so the people that you're talking to understand why referrals are so important to you. Right? After branch manager, there's Cutco sales professional. That's what Bailey did. Or district manager, that's who I am. Right? And so I'd be writing down I'd be thinking about, well, Mrs. Jones, the reason I'm working so hard right now is because I want to do really well in my first 10 days. And if I do that, I can move into a position of leadership. And there's this role in the future that I can look at called the branch manager, where I can actually learn to run my own office. And I'm really excited about being an entrepreneur one day. So, every referral that you give me gets me closer to that goal of becoming a branch manager, district manager, Cutco sales professional. Because if all they think you're doing is trying to sell knives, they're going to give you referrals of people that they think might listen to a Cutco appointment. But all of a sudden they might be thinking a little bit wider. All right. So you got to make people feel good. Complimenting them at all times. People will give you more referrals if they like you more, and people like people that give them compliments. So I'll give you a couple of compliments that I think moms really like. Number one is you have great taste. All moms, if you go to their house, love to hear you've got great taste. Did you design the house yourself? Right? So if you've been to houses where you can tell that the wife has like good taste, like she's designed things. Then there's going to be other types of houses where it's more like, I don't really care about the design. I just want to have in this house as many things that represent the people I love as possible. It's all over the place, but there's pictures everywhere. There's things everywhere. There's things all over the refrigerator. So instead of you have really good taste, wow, this home is really cozy. Moms and women love the idea of something being cozy and that they created that for them. It's really homey. It's really comfortable. Wow, it's a really festive environment, especially this time of the year. So complimenting them, asking them questions about themselves even throughout the demo, right? Continue the process. Actually, you should be getting referrals throughout the entire process, not just at the end of the demo, right? So at the beginning, they should have given you 4 or 5 different types of moms that you know. It's not just about quantity of referrals. That's step one. But now that you're starting to get quantity, now we got to make sure we're getting quality. And so it's important that you know where you're going to be getting moms from them, right? So tell me about where you work. Tell me about where your kids, play sports or do for fun, any activities. Tell me about your family. What do you guys do over the holidays, right? These are things that I've talked to you about before. Okay. So when you ask for referrals, it's expected that they give you objections. It's expected that they give you objections. I'm always ready for page 23. I'm always ready for page 22 to 23. Wimps go up to rebound with one hand, meaning they sort of expect to be able to handle the objection. But the real champions here expect the objection and expect to be able to overcome it every single time. They expect themselves to be able to overcome it. So they use the page 23 objection handlers with confidence. They use the page 23 objection handlers with confidence. It's almost like, of course you were going to say that. Okay, Mrs. Jones needs cheering when she's giving you referrals. You're doing awesome. This is great. Like as they start clicking, be like, oh my God, you have no idea how much you're helping me out. Just make them feel good as they're giving you referrals. Compliment, you're doing amazing. You're the best. You're going to be helping me get to my next promotion as a result of what you're doing right now. If they knew how important referrals were to you, wouldn't they give you more? So you got to make them feel really special as they're giving you lots of referrals. Okay. So now that you've gotten your 10, your 20, your 30, you need to qualify your referrals, right? We talked about in training, we want to make sure that we're seeing husbands and wives together if possible, and no husbands or single men by themselves ever because they never buy, right?
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, you're gonna cancel that appointment. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be qualifying the referrals. Don't worry, he's gonna watch Sports Center instead. He wasn't like dreaming about seeing cut rate. So how do you qualify the referrals? You have to, first of all, remember to qualify referrals. So on page 22 at the bottom, there's this section that says qualify referrals. Right, and so you want to star that, you want to highlight that. So there's a couple of main questions I ask. And this is my fault that you ended up scheduling that single guy appointment. I didn't teach it to you yet. So I'm going to tell you what to ask so that way that doesn't happen again. So the first question you have to ask is, what is their spouse's name? What's their spouse's name? You have to ask that to the person who's giving you the referrals. And you only really need to ask that question if you have a man's name on your sheet. What's their spouse's name? Right, so they can see what referral they gave you. You're like, Mrs. Jones, in order for me to kind of have, so it's a little easier when I call them. Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions about these referrals? Awesome. First of all, let's write down where they live. And you need to write down where each person lives. That way, because you're doing some in-person appointments, you know if you're calling 5 Austin people, 5 Kyle people, or 5 San Antonio people. I would drive to San Antonio if I had 5 appointments there. I would drive to North Austin or Cedar Park if I had 5 appointments there that day. Heck, when you're new, you might need to drive there for 2 or 3 appointments. You get there, you get tons of referrals there, but then you need to start kind of figuring out where my referrals are living. So that way, when I'm calling people, today I'm going to do San Antonio appointments. Tomorrow I'm going to do Austin appointments, and the next day I'm going to do Wimberley appointments, right? And so as you start kind of becoming the traveling salesman, just kind of the cool thing, you get to the town, you find a cool, a cool spot for lunch, you do 2 appointments, sell some Cutco, get some lunch, do 2 more appointments, and then you drive home like everybody else does. Except you're going kind of away from traffic, which is kind of nice because we're going to the suburbs. So you got to qualify them by asking them, where do they live? And you got to qualify them by asking, what's their spouse's name? And the last but not least is, Mrs. Jones, if you were me, who would you call first and why? And those are the people that you need to make sure that you get the 3-way text messages sent out to. We want them to send the 3-way text messages out to, but yeah, right, if like somebody replies back and says, sure, you can do a demo, and then you end up calling them and they're not qualified, it kind of feels kind of guilty, right? Or like, ah, dang, I wish I would have actually, seen that person, or I wish I would have known in advance. So it's not necessarily your fault, and it's not necessarily their fault, but we want to ask them in advance. And last but not least, one more. Mrs. Jones, this is awesome, right? You got them to 10, you got them to 20, you got a 30, you got a triple sponsor if need be. Mrs. Jones, is there any way you can just give me one more name? Just to remind yourself that you're never satisfied. Never satisfied. So again, Mrs. Jones, is there any way you can just give me one more? So as a review, standards, always ask for referrals. Never forget. Make sure that you always build rapport at the beginning as long as we can. Share your goals with confidence, not just what you're trying to sell today, your promotions, your future opportunities. Compliments. Make sure you read the manual, follow the steps, don't skip it. And yes, it does make a big difference that you read it word for word. Always expect the objections and expect them with a smile, knowing that without question, as long as you read the approach, you're going to handle the objection. Every professional athlete goes up for the rebound. Do they always get the rebound? No, but they always think they're about to get it and that it's going to come back and they're going to score and it's going to be awesome. They go up with 2 hands, not just one hoping, but 2 expecting. Cheer Mrs. Jones on as she's giving you more referrals. And lastly, let's make sure that we qualify them. So we're taking all of the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 referrals. The purpose of getting 50 referrals is to get 10 really, really good ones. Because when you call those 10 referrals and you qualify their referrals, now you're starting to really specialize into a great crew of moms who are going to be awesome, wonderful, and buy Cutco at high levels and give you lots of referrals, because really qualified customers know more people than single people. Married couples know twice as many people because there's twice as many people in the house. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna put a plug on this.